What if your biggest fear came true and it actually turned out to be the thing that propels you forward towards your destined divine path? And I'm not saying that's the case every time. And I certainly wish that, at least for me, this hadn't happened, but it did. And it has been my inspiration since day one of what I do now to help so many families that I get to help every single day. If you are watching live, please, I want to hear from you. If you could just drop me a comment and let me know you're here, let me know you're with me, let me know you're listening. And while we're at it, I'm going to go ahead and I am going to hit live on our Instagram as well. And um, we're just recording live, raw and real. We're going to be posting it raw and real. The newest episode of our show, Okay Awful. I'm sorry, Awful, Okay Awesome. And we're going live on both Instagram and Facebook today as we record live our newest episode of Awful Okay Awesome, the show that focuses on stories of trial and tribulations that actually turned into divinely inspired paths of passion and purpose through persistence and perseverance. And today I don't have a guest. I will be sharing my own story of trial and tribulation that now is my inspiration every single day with how I help families to change their financial path through the most horrible of circumstances and scenarios, the divinely inspired lessons that I get to carry forward. Let's not forget, I never would, that this show is brought to you by Black Aswad Coffee, the brand that's redefining your morning ritual with rich, bold flavors and benefiting mental wellness. If you're looking for a coffee that fuels both body and mind, Black Aswad is your go-to. Simply go to www.blackaswadco.com and pick the bold and the beautiful and the rich blend that most lights you up. I guarantee that you're going to love not only the flavor but the smell. Every time I come down to my office, I have these beautiful packages, and I smell the difference every time that I'm in my office, and I drink the difference every time I'm in my office. And the bold, rich flavors are everything. They just, I'm always like, it might be the coffee talking, but I'm in an amazing mood. um, so, without further ado, part of the reason why I'm sharing my own story today and I didn't have a guest today is because this is one of my methods for being productive when writing my books. And we have my previous anthology behind me that you can get on Amazon to benefit the global sisterhood. You also see my first book, The Minimalist Method, that is also available on Amazon. And Minimalist Method, the Emerging Entrepreneur's Guide to Peace and Prosperity. It's really something when you have to look up your own book's title. And so I'm doing this episode today because for me, it is a way to get a first draft down of my chapter that is going to be about the story of why I do what I do today, which I'm a money flow strategist for families. I specialize in working with younger families that are either in late 20s to mid 30s, even mid 40s, to ensure that you're on the path that you'd like to be for retirement. And if you have debt, what is the best and quickest way that you can take care of it before it gets on top of you, like it got on top of me in the past? And how to make better, more confident financial decisions, and also how to ensure that you're properly insured through your life insurance so that your family is fully taken care of. I see it every day. Not my clients, but in other scenarios where within a few years, even if families had life insurance, they're starting GoFundMe's because they're on the verge of losing their house because they didn't have enough life insurance. I don't believe in fearing and leading with fear, but I do believe in preparing through wisdom. And that is something that can be totally avoided if you have proper life insurance. And if you get it soon enough, the premiums are not that much added to your monthly budget whatsoever, and it can add exponential coverage. I think for a gentleman that was super healthy, I was able to get him a premium of less than $100 for $1 million+ policy. Um, Even less than that, if I remember correctly. So we can save you a significant amount of money to ensure that you're properly covered. But I digress. Why do I do what I do? Let me paint the picture for you because, again, I'll be using this as a transcription for a chapter. So I'm literally going to be speaking it out loud as if I'm writing it down as a story. Picture this: knock, knock, knock. There was a knock on the door. And we all kind of look at each other because we weren't expecting anybody else at the moment. We were at the bedside of my mother, who was passing. She was within the last hours of her life here on earth. We had been told by doctors that this is it. You might want to come down. It's not going to be much longer now. And when your family member passes in a hospital, at least in this certain hospital, there are, I believe, purple butterflies that are placed outside throughout the door to allow everybody to know what is going on inside. And what is going on inside is that somebody has been given the end of life diagnosis. This is it. They are in the process of dying within hours. And at this very same hospital, the night before, it was discovered that I had brought in my newborn baby boy because I had given birth at home to my precious little boy who's a ray of sunshine. And at the same time, we had received the news that my mother would be dying. My positive mind at the time, I'm overly positive, but it also has served me in life, so I love it. But in this case, my overly positive self did not accept this as the truth. I kept thinking to myself, or I kept believing to myself, that no, this was going to be another one of those scenarios that you hear about, that somebody's been given an end of life diagnosis, but in reality, they're going to be around for years to come. That wasn't the case for my mom. We did, within a few weeks, receive a call. She had progressed significantly from the skilled nursing facility to a hospital because there was no other choice. She was going to die. And I apologize if this is triggering for some of you, but that is life, right? That's one of the only certain things in life, is that we will die, we will pass. And it was time for my mom. She was ready. She had been suffering for a long time through many health complications. In this case, it was breast cancer that had metastasized into lung cancer and all throughout her bones, and causing her significant amount of pain, causing her more difficulty to breathe, and causing her more difficulty to just even be, because she had so much pain in her bones. Prior to that, she had beaten cancer twice throughout her life, which gave us decades more with my mom. It allowed her to start a family. It allowed her to have grandkids. And intermixed with that, she also had heart surgery to replace 2 heart valves. So she had been through it, and she was a God-loving, trusting woman, and she was ready for it. She was going peacefully. But she did want to pass it home. However, in Pennsylvania, that's easier said than done. It is not something that is funded by your health insurance, but a skilled nursing facility and a hospital is. And so we had to make the choice for my mom to pass at a skilled nursing facility, followed by a hospital, because, again, as I said, I had just given birth literally at the same exact time that she received the diagnosis that she was going to die. So there was no choice. For various reasons that we didn't understand at the time, my dad was not capable of caring for her. We would soon realize after her passing that he was experiencing dementia, which didn't help him to take care of himself, let alone another person. So here we were in a hospital room, waiting for my mom to pass, with a baby in my baby carrier, smuggled in so I could be there both for my brand new baby and my passing mother and my family and myself. Now, mind you, prior to this, I tried to abide by the hospital rules, by the little tiny sign that I saw to my left when I was walking in the hospital door that said no children allowed. But within a few hours of running up the steps to be with my mom and try to spend time with her the last few moments that I could, and running down the steps to get in the car with my husband, who was with the baby in the vehicle, um, who he was also crying, and the baby was crying, and I was crying, and people in my mom's room were crying, and everybody was crying, and I wasn't there for anyone, let alone myself. I was just trying to play by the rules. So I said, F it. I mean, after all, I gave birth at home against all the advice of medical professionals warning me that hospitals are the safer place for babies, right? So, how bad could it be if I brought my baby into this hospital, even though this little teeny tiny plaque as you walked in said no kids allowed? So I brought him in. Mind you, my five other children were at home. I have seven children now. At the time, he was my sixth baby. He still is my sixth baby, I guess. But um, I left them at home with caretakers, family that was available, friends, things like that. So it was I said to my husband, please go home and be with the kids because they're losing their nonna too, and I will be upstairs with the baby and my mom. And she blessedly made it through that night, that first night. I ran home with the baby to get him, a more comfortable space to sleep for just a few hours at home. And then in the morning, I brought him back into the hospital. And at that time is when we heard the knock, 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 knock. And it was a, um, actually, let me back that up. We heard the knock, 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 and my sister in law went to the door. I heard some mumbling. She turned around and looked at me, and I said, "It's me, right? I have to go." And she said, sheepishly, she looked at me and she nodded her head. Yeah. So I hoisted my baby boy up, which honestly, at that point, if you've seen newborns, they're just honestly like he was a little sack of potatoes in a little carrier. And I just picked up, the handle of the car seat by the crook of my arm, supported by my elbow, and I hoisted him up and I walked over to my mom's bedside, holding the tears in. I said goodbye, I love you, and I walked out. And my dad was there, some other family members were there. They're all kind of looking around saying, "What's going on? We can't let this happen. We can't let this just be like you need to be you need to be able to be here, right?" So I said, "Don't do that. Just focus on mom. This is her moment. These are your moments with her. Just completely ignore the situation. I will do what I'm being asked to do, so not to ruffle any feathers." And I walked out that door, right, where the butterflies were, letting everybody know that there was somebody special passing inside that door. And followed by two security guards who had knocked on the door to let us know that I needed to leave with my baby and my twin brother by my side, walking me out. He, we walked out through um, the hospital hallway, through the fluorescent lights, through everybody kind of looking and staring because there's two security guards following a woman with a baby and a guy, and everybody you could tell is kind of wondering what the heck is going on, that these people are getting kicked out of a hospital with a baby. And I get into the elevator doors. And side note, into the elevator, if any of you energetics are listening to this or watching this or reading this, I don't know if I'll include this in the chapter or not, but I'm very curious to know what the meaning behind this is. Inside the elevator at this time is my 7th grade science teacher, who I was not a great student in 7th grade. We did not get along. She was very strict. It wasn't like a great teacher student relationship. And she's inside this elevator at this literally, arguably, the worst moment of my life. And I looked at her and I go, Mrs. McCandless, 7th grade, Carson Middle School, science. And she goes, yeah. And I go, and we just route the elevator so awkwardly all the way down in silence. And you could probably tell, like, she was thinking to herself, what is her problem? Right? Boy, did I have a problem. And I walked out of the hospital. And at this point, I had parked the vehicle. I put my husband was at home with the rest of the kids. I put the baby in the car and I drove home, trying to regroup myself of what just happened, trying to process, trying to go home and see if there's a solution, if there's some sort of way that I could continue to be there with my mom while also being with my baby. Which, mind you, if you're not familiar with the dynamics, I don't understand. I have these comments happening, by the way, on this live on Facebook that are completely inappropriate for what I'm saying. I'm just going to delete these comments and I'm going to block these people, because for the story that I'm saying, side note, if you're listening to this again, these comments are completely inappropriate about my appearance and about how pretty I look, and that I'm telling you a story about my passing mother and me getting kicked out of a hospital. I mean, I don't know if this is probably just complete spam. But if you can hear me still and you're leaving these comments, it is not appropriate to comment on my appearance and my looks in these ways while I'm sharing this story. It is not well received. I do not accept it. Boundary established. Only relevant comments, please. Anyways, if you're listening to this on replay, it's kind of appropriate, right? Because I like to have comedy even about literally the worst moment of my life, and that is appropriate, right? In terms of, that would happen because it just gave me a good chuckle too. Anyways, if you're listening and seeing these comments in real time that I just deleted and blocked the people who are leaving them, you're hopefully getting a good chuckle as well. And so I was at home just trying to figure out what to do next, and more family came over, and it was Easter Sunday. And again, if you're not to just circle back, if you're not familiar with the dynamic of having a newborn baby who will not take the bottle, who will only nurse, who you can try everything you want to try to get this baby to take a bottle, but all they will do is eat breast milk and breastfeed and nurse, and there's nothing else you could do to make this baby do anything else. That's so if maybe you're reading this or listening to this or watching this and wondering, couldn't you just have left the baby with somebody else? Isn't there somebody that could have supported you? You didn't ask for enough support. Mind you, all of these things I'm making up in my head. Maybe no one is thinking this, but isn't that the truth about what the brain does? No. I needed to be there for my baby. I wanted to breastfeed my baby, let alone my baby would not take a bottle. And in sleep deprivation, you're just kind of doing the best that you can. Anyways, it's Easter Sunday. And there's family who comes over and very so kindly organizes an Easter egg hunt to try to. Hello, Leticia. Um, my cousin is watching from France, and I'm live on Instagram and I'm live on Facebook, and the family came over to organize a Easter egg hunt, and because it was Easter, and just to try to bring some cheer to the kids who were losing their nonna. And I just remember I'm inside, sleep deprived with a newborn baby, and the sun, it's like the clouds parted. I kid you not, the clouds parted, and the sun shone as brightly as it could, certainly the brightest in that day. And in that moment, I received the text message from my sister, Mom's gone. And I just remember looking at my phone and going, oh no. And everyone who's around me is saying, what? And I said, my mom's gone. So my husband and I get in the car and we go back to the hospital. Of course, he stays in the car with the baby. I run upstairs to meet my family. I said goodbye one last time to my mom, who at this point is already gone. And we're all just chit-chatting, waiting for, I guess, the coroner to come and take care of the situation. Not the coroner. The nursing, I'm sorry, not the nursing, the funeral home that we had chosen for the service of caring for my mother after passing. And then I just remember thinking from this moment, hi Albert Jackson. I'm just saying hello to people who are watching live. I just remember thinking in this moment, this is so comically terrible. I mean, even in my family, we made jokes like, the baby's already a rebel without a cause, getting kicked out of hospitals. What baby gets kicked out of a hospital? We need to get them little prison jumpsuit onesies. And I just remember thinking, this situation is so comically bad that there has to be some reasoning behind it. And it's in that moment that I went down the rabbit hole of learning about life insurance and learning about end-of-life care and learning about retirement accounts and learning about what could have been done differently. Of course, everything happens as it should. Of course, everything unfolds as it's meant to. But also, what can you take from the situation? What can you learn for it? How is this happening for you? And that's how I became so engrossed in understanding, preparing for retirement, and understanding how life insurance policies work, and the accelerated death benefit rider, that if you don't know if you have that or if your life insurance has it, you need to talk to me so we can look into it, because that is the sole purpose that I became licensed to sell life insurance. And then subsequently I became licensed to to sell securities, which is, it means to sell investment tools such as Roth IRAs, simple IRAs, 529 plans, and things of that genre. Because my mom growing up had kind of made me promise that I would take care of her. She did not want to pass in a skilled nursing facility and in a hospital, but she chose that in the end because she felt that that was what was needed for her to get the best care that she could at the moment, and for what the family needed in that moment. But I want you and anybody listening or watching or reading this to have the end of life care that you would want to a T, 100%. And God always provides in his most miraculous ways. But he also equips you with the knowledge to make the best decisions that you can, to have the best life that you can from the beginning to end. And as I became more engrossed in this industry, simultaneously, I have had a marketing agency that uh, I had started over a decade prior that was all about social media and marketing and email marketing and open rates and insights and algorithms. And when my mom passed, which was my best friend of all time, the person who was my partner in crime, we made, arguably, she was more of a partner in my life than even my spouse because of that was just the dynamic. And that's not to say if it's right or wrong. And that's just the way it was. She was my go-to for a sounding board in regards to what school do we send the kids to, and what do you think. She would go with me on school tours whenever, anytime there was a big life change, she was there to offer her feedback. We welcomed it. If she came over and saw that the fridge was empty, she would surprise you with groceries. If she knew that a holiday was coming up or a child special event that required a certain pizzazz to the kids' clothing, she arrived with bags upon bags of outfit choices. She just was the kind of person that anticipated your needs and met them before you even could think about it, because she had had 5 children. So she understood what it was like to have to be a working mom with many children, and she wanted to be there for you. That person died, and I didn't get to be with her. And so in that moment, it's it was, what can I take from this situation? And in that moment, it was, to me, I was thinking, nothing else matters. Honestly and truly, who gives an F if how many clicks are happening on this ad? Who gives an F if so and so isn't happy about the conversion rates of their marketing efforts? And obviously, I continued to serve my clients the best that I could, go above and beyond in ways that felt in alignment to fully care for the clients that trusted me with their brands. I shifted the focus to be more meaningful to me. I shifted from doing marketing for anyone and everyone to helping holistic practitioners and beauty brands who allowed others to live their best lives and fend off diseases with beauty and wellness solutions that not only allowed you to feel like your best self, but also gave you life, amplify, infused more life into the years that you have on this earth. And that felt more fulfilling, but it still didn't feel like 100%. And so, and simultaneously, what was happening is that my husband was experiencing difficulties with his land development endeavors in terms of some turmoil there that was beyond his control, that he had nothing to do with. And it was just a very tough time. It became a very tough time financially. And I honestly just kept doing what I could. And I would, it feels to me now like I just kept throwing money at the problem to try to fix it. And in doing so, it just exacerbated the issues. And when you're in the state of grief and it's starting to feel like survival mode, as much as you on your daily life, in my daily life, and everything that I would read was all about thriving and living your best life and trusting the divine economy. And I would preach it as, more to remind myself in this point. And it just started to ripple down a path of almost self sabotage where I stopped doing the daily practice of journaling and meditating and exercising and positive thinking and infusing myself with divine truths daily. And I started to believe circumstantial facts, human facts, over the divine truth of wealth consciousness. And that energetically rippled me further down. And it got to the point where, as much as I was still serving clients to the best of my abilities, and it was still lighting me up to be there for them. I remember there would be moments that were very pivotal for their careers that I got to be there for, and I felt how special and how honored I am to get to be here for them. And I will do my absolute best to be my best version of myself for them, in alignment with the divine truth and in alignment with the way that it lights me up. And I remember in these moments, God rewarding both of us exponentially, both my clients and myself. But something just kind of felt off. But I kept doing it. I kept running my marketing agency um, while at the same time educating myself in the financial rep and life insurance rep field, because it felt like I should. Because it felt like, well, as long as the marketing agency is making good money, I should keep doing this. I'm good at it. It's fun, but something just didn't feel fully in alignment. So I'm not surprised that slowly but surely the clients that I'd had for years that I loved, and their work that they're doing in this world is so important, we're having conversations of, I think I'm going to pause the marketing services for now. They had their own moments of clarity that they needed to sort out. And so it made total sense that they needed to pause marketing services because they needed some clarity within of directions that they were going. Because beyond all this, what were we experiencing? If you're familiar with what's going on in the economy, we were experiencing the human economy. There was gas prices skyrocketing, there were food prices skyrocketing, and the world was concerned. And so the world was, instead of prioritizing the services that my clients provided, which are very often out of pocket services, they were choosing routes for their health and wellness, or that were covered by insurance instead, or choosing simply to go without them because they were concerned about their budget. And so that just rippled through in the economy, right? And then what's the first thing that brands are doing? They cut their marketing budget. And who's the marketing budget? That was me. And I just remember watching this all happen in observance of, I see what you're doing, God. And God was directing me even more clearly and having me focus on this path of becoming a financial rep for families, to help families prepare for the circumstance that I had just been through and make more confident financial decisions in their daily lives, and not decisions based on fear, decisions based in an alignment of what they want their lives to look like. And by the way, guys, speaking of that and wanting the way that your life to look a certain way, I am so grateful every day that I get to be on top of, a financial rep and a life insurance rep to so many families, helping you find hidden money in your life and teaching you how you could potentially grow it, and how to avoid a lot of the mistakes that I've made, and how to make more confident financial decisions for your divine path of finances so you can live the best life that you can. I get to also have that marketing aspect of it by, running a show like this, and I wouldn't be able to do it without sponsors like Black Aswad Coffee and the beautiful, oh my gosh, the beautiful blends that they provide. But I digress. I got to focus on that more, and it became very clear that that's what God wanted me to focus on. And so I made the decision this past year to close Media, the creative agency, and I actually started a new entity, and it's called Whole Truth Communications, through which I get to do the kind of marketing only that lights me up. I get to provide content creation, UGC, spokesperson services to brands that are lifestyle, family, and health and wellness and beauty brands. And I get to do that as an individual, and I get to have so much fun doing that through my Instagram and other social media platforms, because I energetically closed the doors on what was no longer in alignment, and I opened new doors, and God has certainly rewarded me accordingly, and our family accordingly. And I get to help so many families save money on their life insurance while having even more and better coverage. I get to help so many families learn whether they're on track for retirement and what simple and easy steps can we make to get closer to it. I get to help so many families. By the way, my services are free. Learn, and individuals too, not just families, learn how they can pay back their debt so much more quickly and save so much on interest so they don't get to the point of what I allowed things to get to because I was making fear based choices that were not informed. And I kept throwing money at experts to help me when it just kept spiraling. And because I wasn't doing the things that I teach families to do now for free. Again, my services are free. I have these calls all the time with families, and they'll say, "Well, Marta, but how do you make money? Like, you just helped me so much. I feel so much more relaxed. I mean, they're crying tears of joy because we have solutions, and also sometimes we find wins that they hadn't even thought about. How do you make money, Marta? Like, you just spend so much time with us." Well, I make money only when you decide to invest or you decide to have a life insurance policy with me. But I also get rewarded significantly by seeing your reaction. And when you're getting to have a full plan right in front of you that you didn't have to even pay for, and now just looking at everything with somebody who comes alongside you, judgment free, full of love for you and your family, that significantly raises your wealth consciousness so many levels of high vibrations because that's really step one. And I get to do that, and God brought me to this through the journey that I went through. And mind you, my mom was a hustler when it came to me and supporting me and my siblings and our professional endeavors. That woman could be in one of her many hospital beds, going through one of her many medical journeys, and for example, during periods of time that I was a family photographer, she would see a nurse that was pregnant and she would say, "Oh, my daughter is a photographer. Let me give you her card. You should contact her for photography." And my mom would be like literally dying in a hospital bed. So I'm sure the nurses would be like, "Okay, honey." Or she would see somebody with an engagement ring. Let's say my mom's maybe going through chemo and there's somebody in her space with an engagement ring, and she would go, "Oh, you are you engaged? Do you have a photographer? My daughter and my son are wedding photographers." Because my brother also was a wedding photographer. Just she was just our biggest supporter. So she would not hate on this one bit. She would be all about it. She would be all about it. She would always say, make the most of the opportunities and the moments that are presented to you. She and I promised her 2 days prior to her passing. She asked me. She asked me, "Will you miss me?" And I said, and normally I would wave her off and I would say, "Okay, come on, Mom, we're not having these conversations." But I felt like this time was different. And she said, "Will you miss me?" And this was 2 days prior to her passing. And I said, "Mom, of course I'm going to miss you so much." And she said, "But will you always miss me?" And I said, "Mom, I will always miss you." And I can tell you 3 years later, I still miss her. It still gets hard around her birthday and, the anniversary of her passing. But this is my way of missing her and making the most of her life and her existence and carrying her name forward through everything that I do professionally. And my mom was the biggest helper. She was known for her volunteer work. She was known for her decades of inspiring students through her teaching at all levels, from elementary to university. Her students loved her. And she was the first to be non-judgmental about people's situations, and she was the first to offer help even though it was a time when she could use help. She was just the most selfless, kind woman who would drop everything to be there for her family. And this is the best way that I can think of to carry on her name and her legacy, by helping other families. So that's my story today on Awful, Okay, Awesome, which I don't ever want to forget our gratitude towards our sponsor, Black Aswad Coffee Company. You can get their blends at blackaswadcoffeeco.com and use the code AWESOME15 for a special opportunity of shopping. We're so grateful for them because we get to share so many stories on this show. And today I got to share my story, which I will transform into my chapter for our upcoming anthology. And so I thank you for being there with me today and listening. And I encourage you to please support our sponsors so that they can continue to support our show, so we can continue to tell stories of people who have undergone extremely difficult things, and they utilize them as inspirations for helping others through their passion work. Bye, everyone. Until next time.